Okay, I'm live. This is going to be a short TLDR video on Deuteronomy 32, 42 to 43. So 42 to 43 has a very rich textual history, and so I'm not going to go into that history. I'm just going to say that if you want to see maybe some of the manuscript differences, just pick up whatever Bible version you prefer, take a look at the NASB, the NIV, and compare those to the ESV. The ESV will incorporate some extra textual fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it helps to recover what the original intention of Deuteronomy 32, 42 through 43 actually was. I'm not going to read all these passages, but I'm just going to give you some references here to look through for later. So Numbers 35, 30 to 34, Hebrews 1:6, Psalm 68, 14 to 23, Psalm 22, 19 to 31, Colossians 2, 6 to 15, Psalm 110, Wisdom of Solomon 18, 20 to 25, Isaiah 63, Isaiah 49, 2, and Exodus 15, 1 to 18. Now that is a lot. And you can read that, you don't have to. So here's the meaning of this. So it's Ashkir, Chitzai, Midam. My arrows will be drunk from blood. V'chorbi tochal basar midam chalal. And my sword will eat the flesh from the blood of the slain or the pierced. And then we have, and the captives, and this can be translated, the captives from the heads of our enemies, like the head of the peoples, the leaders or commanders. But I think the right way to translate this is Yahweh's sword and arrows will drink blood from the long locks from the heads of the captives of the enemies. So Shabiyah is captive. May is the article there, the preposition from. Rosh is head. Parot, that means long locks. It's in the number 6 for the Nazarite. It's in Ezekiel 44 when the priests in the future temple will be commanded how not to grow their locks out long. This kind of picture. So the enemies are associated with long, hairy heads. These are the Gentile nations. And as a background, that correlation directly plugs into Psalm 68. It's the idea that there's a collision between these pagan nations in Psalm 68 and their gods, who are actually, they're real beings, and they're depicted as destructive beings, and their followers are depicted as these Gentiles with this long, unkempt hair. So that's why the long hair are the enemies, and it also is a throwback to the idea that some of their divine beings, some of their gods, are depicted in a similar fashion in Psalm 68. It's cueing you in. So that's the right context for it. And then we have verse 43, Haraminu Goimamo. So the Bible you have will say, rejoice nations, his people, or the nations, my people. But actually it should say rejoice. So the heavens rejoice emo, the heavens rejoice with him. And this part is absent in most versions, not the ESV. V'hishtachavuu lochol Elohim, and worship him, all you gods. So there's a command for these gods, these Elohim, to worship Yahweh. And then the blood of his sons, what the Dead Sea Scroll says, sons, it says servants in the Masoretic text. For the blood of his sons, he will requite, or he will take vengeance for, and he will bring vengeance to his enemies, and to those hating him, he will requite or repay them, and he will make atonement for the land of his people, or make atonement for his people's land. So the long hair piece is just this throwback to how to depict these enemy nations and this collision of these enemy nations with their gods. The question of why bow down, O gods? Well, these are the beings that are the New Testament. Paul would say the archons, the heads, the rulers, the principalities. When it says in the New Testament, for example, Yeshua will cause every knee in heaven to bow. Well, the question might be, so what? For most Christians, they might say, well, so what? Aren't all knees in heaven bowing? No. Paul says in Ephesians 6 that our enemies are in heavenly places. So the heavens, the Shemayim, plural, has entities in it that are that are rebelling against Yahweh. And they will bow their knee. And they are referred to in Hebrew as Elohim, or as gods. And so this is a future thing that they will worship. They'll bow down prostrate. They'll worship Yahweh. And as a side note, that is fulfilled in Colossians 2, where you get to see how that's fulfilled through the cross. So there's that piece, this idea of why they bow down to him. And as a side note, here some helpful references. We should understand Yeshua on the cross, Golgotha, as a battlefield. We should see Golgotha as a battlefield. And this kind of ties in with that. And then we have this last question that they asked. What about blood and atonement and land? Well, first off, the verb is kiper. That means to cover. It can literally mean to cover or smear, like with pitch or with blood on the altar. And then it can metaphorically mean to cover. We use this phrase in English. Oh, I want to get into the nightclub, but I don't have any money. And somebody says, "Don't worry, I'll cover you." And they'll pay that price. They deal with a thing that's lacking. And it's the same thing with when you smear pitch on a boat. It's lacking and the ability to survive the element of water, and so we cover it to cover what lacks. Humans are lacking in cleanness or in holiness. They're lacking in life, really, honestly, is the way to say it. And so the life that's in the blood covers the altar so that they can share space with Yahweh. So atonement is about covering. And so the land is atoned for. The land gets covered. Now, this is kind of connected to Numbers 35, 30 to 34, that the land itself can become defiled through shed blood. We know this through Genesis with Cain, the blood of the blood of Abel crying out. Like Hebrews says, Yeshua's blood pleads a better word than Abel's blood. That's because his blood was crying out. And Yeshua's blood cries out as well. But it's the idea that the land itself will be covered and cleansed from defilement. So that, again, the function of atonement when it comes to the temple is so that Yahweh can descend, touch down, and share space. So the land is in the state of defilement, and Yahweh leaves it. We know that because earlier in this song in Deuteronomy 32, Yahweh said, "I'm out, I'm peacing out, I'm leaving, I'm going to leave from their midst." And so he's going to atone the land so that he can come back and return locally. That's the plan. The point of atonement is so that Yahweh can share space. So he's going to cleanse the land so that he can come and live in the land locally. All right. That's a quick and dirty take on these passages. So I answered all three of those questions. Bless you guys. I'm going to make another video, and I'm going to go, I'm actually going to break down some of these passages and go a little bit more deeply into it. Peace.